Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that, well, for many, promises not just a tidier home, but maybe even a completely reshaped life. We're talking about Marie Kondo's best-selling book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Now, I know for me, and I suspect for many of you listening, there's that familiar cycle. You tidy madly, you clean, and then, well, all too soon your home or maybe your workspace is cluttered again. It feels like an endless loop, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, yeah. And what's really compelling about this source material, I think, is its core promise. It offers a method that, according to Pondo anyway, can entirely prevent that rebound effect. It's called the KonMari method. And it's less about, continuous tidying and more about one really intense, complete discarding event. The aim is a dramatic transformation, not just of your space, but your whole life, potentially.
Okay, so if it's meant to be this, like permanent fix, our mission today is really to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, maybe some surprising insights from this source material. We want to give you a shortcut, basically, to understanding the magic behind this method and how it promises to, well, reset your life. Okay, let's unpack this then. So the source kicks off by addressing something pretty fundamental, something most of us probably just take for granted. We've all been scolded for messy rooms, right? But what's fascinating is this idea that tidying isn't something we're naturally good at. It actually needs to be taught.
Exactly. Yeah, and what's really insightful is the argument that, a lot of our conventional wisdom about tidying, it's actually counterproductive. Like, take the common advice, tidy a little a day. Sounds manageable, right? But the source says that just means you'll be tidying forever.
Forever. Wow.
Yeah, because it doesn't create enough visible, immediate results. It doesn't fundamentally change your mindset or your habits,
Okay.
You don't get to see the true impact.
That's a powerful reframing. So if a little a day is kind of the wrong approach, what's the core, maybe counterintuitive KonMari method she champions? How do we break that endless cycle?
Well, it's what she calls a tidying marathon, or doing it in one fell swoop. Ikimi is the Japanese term. And the claim is this intense, singular event, it doesn't cause rebound. Instead, it creates such a sudden change, a really profound shift, that it makes you truly averse to clutter ever again. You experience that lightness of an organized space so deeply that you just don't want to go back.
And this rapid, thorough tidying, it connects deeply to our inner state too, doesn't it? It's not just about the physical stuff.
Oh, absolutely not. No. The source suggests that a messy room often mirrors a messy mind. So by tidying quickly and thoroughly, you're kind of forced to confront things, maybe reset your life a bit, deal with issues you might have been subconsciously avoiding. It seems to bring this profound sense of clarity, lets you move forward emotionally, psychologically.
I know many of us, myself included, we often immediately think about buying more shelves or containers when we're trying to get organized. But the source challenges this directly. It actually says storage experts are hoarders. That really made me pause. What's the thinking there?
It's quite radical, isn't it? Yeah. The argument is basically that storage is a booby trap, or maybe a superficial answer, if it's done before discarding. See, when you have too much stuff, you never truly grasp the volume of what you own. You just end up burying the things you don't really need, creating this kind of illusion of order without solving the root problem.
That leads directly to another critical principle, then. Sort by category, not by location. Why is that distinction so important when you're tackling clutter?
Well, think about it. Most people store similar items like clothes or books in multiple places throughout their home. Maybe some in the bedroom closet, some in the hall closet, some in a box somewhere else. So if you tidy by room, you're constantly repeating work, and you never get an accurate picture of everything you own in that category. Instead, you need to gather all items of a single category, say every single piece of clothing from every closet, every drawer, every laundry basket, and bring them all together before you start sorting. Only then can you truly see the scale of your possessions.
It's interesting because, a lot of self-help strategies really emphasize tailoring approaches to individual personalities. But Kondo seems quite firm here, arguing don't change the method to suit your personality. What's the rationale behind such a, universal application?
Yeah, she makes the case that most people, regardless of their perceived personality type, tend to fall into one of two main categories. Either the can't throw it away type or the can't put it back type. Or maybe a mix of both. And since the core problem for almost everyone is simply having too much stuff, the solution, which is discarding first, applies universally. It's really about fundamentally altering your relationship with your belongings.
Okay, so we're talking about a significant, one-off event here. It's not about the daily tidying we do, putting the keys back or whatever.
Precisely, yeah. The book clarifies there are two distinct types of tidying. There's daily tidying, which is just, putting things back where they belong, simple maintenance. And then there's special event tidying, which is this big comprehensive cleanup. The KonMari method focuses squarely on the latter. She calls it a once-in-a-lifetime task, really designed to achieve permanent order and transform your home into a space of serenity.
Okay, a once-in-a-lifetime task. So how do you actually embark on this? Before you even think about discarding anything, what's the very first step the source recommends?
Before you touch anything, it says to visualize your destination. This basically means picturing your ideal lifestyle in really concrete terms. What do you want life to feel like in your space? It gave an example I remember of a client who envisioned a feminine lifestyle with like aromatherapy, classical music playing, and a really tidy, almost hotel suite-like room. You have to know what kind of life you're actually working towards, what feeling you want your home to evoke.
Right. Okay, visualize the destination. And once you have that vision, then comes the famous core selection criterion.
Yeah.
Does it spark joy? Now, for someone who really struggles to let go, especially with sentimental items, that intuitive judgment, it can feel incredibly abstract, almost impossible. What advice does the source offer for people who find that judgment challenging?
Yeah, it really emphasizes that it's an intuitive judgment, not a rational one. The instruction is literally to take each item in one's hand, hold it. And you're not supposed to start reading the book or pondering its practicality. You're supposed to just feel for a thrill of pleasure, a physical reaction almost. If you pick it up and feel that kind of surge of positive energy, you keep it. If not, you thank it for its service and let it go. The act of touching, holding it, is crucial.
Okay. And there's a specific order to follow for these categories, right? Clothes, then books, papers, kimono, that's miscellany, and finally mementos. Is there a strategic reason for that exact sequence?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a clear rationale. You start with the easier categories, the ones with low rarity value, meaning generally less sentimental attachment, like clothes. This helps you hone your decision-making skills, build up your spark joy muscle, as it were. So by the time you get to the really hard stuff, the sentimental items, the mementos, you're much better practiced at making those difficult choices.
Okay, let's dive into those categories then, starting with clothing. How does Kondo suggest we actually begin with clothes?
Right. The process starts by gathering every single item of clothing you own from everywhere in the house and piling it all onto the floor, usually the bed or the floor. And apparently, it's often an astonishing sight. The average initial pile is described as often knee-deep, maybe around 160 items.
Oh.
Yeah. And she also notes, maybe surprisingly, that off-season clothes are often the easiest to start with for decisions. Because you don't need them right now, the decisions feel less clouded by immediate necessity.
Wow, knee-deep in clothes. That's quite a visual. Okay, so once we've gathered all our clothes, what are some of the more maybe surprising or counterintuitive rules Kondo lays out for deciding what to keep? I can imagine a few might catch people off guard.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. One that often gets a strong reaction is her stance on loungewear. The source says downgrading to loungewear is taboo.
Taboo.
Yeah. It might sound strict, but the emphasis is really on valuing your time at home, reinforcing a positive self-image, even when no one else sees you. The idea is you should feel good about what you're wearing, even just around the house. Don't save your good feelings just for outside.
Loungewear is taboo.
Ah.
That really challenges the whole idea of having those comfy clothes you don't really love, but just, wear.
Yeah.
It certainly underscores that idea of radical self-respect, even in private.
Okay, so once you've made your decisions about what sparks joy, how does Kondo suggest we store what we're keeping? Is there a special folding method involved?
Oh, definitely. Beyond discarding, folding is a huge cornerstone of the method. The book states flat out, fold it right and solve your storage problems. She argues that hanging clothes takes up way too much space. Apparently, you can fit 20 to 40 folded items in the same space as maybe 10 hung ones.
20 to 40, wow.
Yeah. And folding isn't just about compactness. It's presented as an act of caring, an expression of love and appreciation for the clothes, like a form of T8, which is a Japanese term meaning applying hands for healing. Okay, an act of caring. So how do you actually fold this way? What's the technique?
Basically, you fold each garment into a simple, smooth rectangle. The goal is to get it so it can stand up on its own edge. You adjust the number of folds so that the garment, when it's standing on its edge, fits the height of your drawer. You're looking for the sweet spot for each piece of clothing, where it feels just right and can stand vertically without falling over.
And once they're folded, how you arrange them in the closet matters too. There's a specific direction suggested, isn't there?
Yes, exactly. The secret to sort of energizing your closet is to hang clothes so they rise to the right. This means arranging heavier, darker, longer items on the left side of the closet rod, and then gradually transitioning to lighter, shorter, brighter items on the right. Apparently, this visual uphill slope makes people feel lighter and more comfortable when they open their closet. It's quite specific.
Here's another one that feels very specific but maybe incredibly impactful. How we store our socks. The source has some strong opinions on that, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. The section title is literally Storing Socks. Treat your socks and stockings with respect. And the big rule is never, ever ball up your socks or tie stockings. The idea is they need to rest after working hard for you.
Rest. Okay.
Yeah. Instead, you fold them correctly into these firm little sushi rolls and store them vertically in the drawer, just like the other clothes.
Sushi rolls for socks. I like that. And regarding seasonal clothes, many of us have those big bins of off-season items tucked away. What does the KonMari method suggest for those?
Well, the ancient Japanese custom of koromoge, which is changing seasonal clothes, is now considered kind of behind the times by Kondo. The advice is really to aim to eliminate the need for storing off-season clothes entirely, if possible. Keep everything accessible year-round. This makes it easier to see everything you have and ensures you're only keeping items that truly spark joy, regardless of the season. Less switching, less storage.
Okay, moving on to books. This one can be really tough for many people, especially avid readers. How does Kondo suggest we begin with our book collections?
Right. The method is simple, but yeah, often resisted. Put all your books on the floor.
Yeah.
The reasoning is that books sitting dormant on shelves become kind of invisible. You can't truly evaluate them if they're just sitting there blending into the background like wallpaper. You need to physically take them down, pile them up, confront them head on.
And once they're all on the floor, applying that spark joy rule to books comes with a crucial warning, a caveat. What is it?
Yes, the big one is make sure you don't start reading it. Reading clouds your judgment. If you pick up a book to assess its joy-sparking potential and immediately get sucked into the content, you'll lose your objective perspective. You need to feel its physical presence, how holding that book makes you feel, not get lost in the story or the information right then.
Right. Avoid the trap of getting lost in the pages. And for all those books we tell ourselves we'll read sometime. Kondo doesn't pull any punches there, does she?
She certainly doesn't, no. She simply states, sometime means never. Ouch.
Ouch is right.
Yeah. She argues that if you haven't read a book by now, its real purpose might have been to teach you that you didn't actually need it. It served its purpose just by being acquired. She even encourages discarding unread textbooks and study guides to truly test your passion for a subject. If you really want it later, you'll seek it out again.
And it seems counterintuitive, maybe, but having fewer books actually leads to something quite profound, according to the source.
It does, paradoxically. The book suggests that having fewer books actually increases the impact of the information I read. The idea is when you're surrounded only by books that truly spark joy and resonate with you, you're more likely to actually engage with them, absorb them, and retain their content. It makes your reading more meaningful, apparently.
Okay, next up, papers. Ugh. For many people, this is the absolute bane of their existence. What's Kondo's bold rule of thumb for papers?
The bold rule of thumb here is, well, it's pretty radical. Discard everything.
Everything.
Pretty much. But okay, there are 3 specific exceptions. Papers that are currently in use, papers needed for a limited period of time like current bills, or papers that must be kept indefinitely, like legal documents or contracts, everything else. Basically, out it goes.
And for the papers you do end up saving, how simple is the filing method supposed to be? I can imagine people have these really elaborate systems.
Nope, it's incredibly simple. She recommends only 2 main categories for papers you need to keep. First, infrequently used papers like insurance policies or leases. Second, more frequently used items like maybe current project notes or clippings. And these are just stored vertically, often in a single clear file or upright holder. Critically, that needs attention box for bills to pay or forms to fill out should ideally be empty. If it's always full, it's often a sign of undone tasks piling up in your life.
And the source specifically calls out a few notorious paper culprits, doesn't it? Which one should we be particularly ruthless with?
Oh, yeah. She highlights things like lecture materials. Their value is often in the experience of the lecture and applying the knowledge, not the handout itself. Credit card statements discard once you've checked them. Warranties discard the bulky manuals. Just keep all the actual warranty cards together in one place. Greeting cards, their purpose is fulfilled once received and appreciated. And use checkbooks or pay slips. They're just records of past transactions, usually not needed long term.
Okay, that's helpful. Now, for kimono or miscellaneous items, these are often the real junk drawer culprits, aren't they? The random bits and pieces.
Absolutely. These items are often kept, as the book says, just because, and that's precisely the trap. They're the ones we don't really need, don't particularly love, but haven't found a compelling reason to discard. The odds and ends.
And the source lists some common types of these disposables. Some of these are really eye-opening, things we all probably have lying around.
They really are. Things like gifts arguing their true purpose is to be received with thanks, not to become a burden of guilt if you don't use them. Cosmetic samples often expired or forgotten by the time you'd use them. Electronics packages and boxes just taking up space. Unidentified cords, the mystery cables we all seem to collect. Broken appliances you swear you'll fix. Guest bedding, especially if it's rarely or never used. Spare buttons, which you'll probably never actually sew on. Those health-crazed products you bought with good intentions. And all those free novelty goods you get at events.
Oh man, the unidentified cords, I feel seen. And what about small change, those coins we just toss into a jar or a dish?
Right, for small change, the motto is simple. Into my wallet. Use it. Piggy banks are seen as problematic because they just become these forgotten caches of, discolored coins. Condo feels they lose their dignity as money when left like that. Better to just put them in your wallet and spend them, or take them to the bank regularly.
The section on astounding stockpiles I have seen is pretty wild.
Oh.
It truly shows the extent of what people accumulate sometimes.
Yeah.
What were some of the most memorable examples?
Oh, they're incredible, almost unbelievable. She mentions clients with things like 60 toothbrushes, 30 boxes of plastic wrap, 80 rolls of toilet paper, or a record, apparently, of 20,000 cotton swabs.
20,000.
Yeah. It connects this kind of extreme overstocking to the underlying anxiety it creates. And it introduces this concept of finding your personal just right click point. That moment you intuitively know exactly how much is enough for you. It's not about deprivation, but about having precisely what you need and use, not drowning in excess.
Okay, finally, we come to the last category, sentimental items and photos. I can imagine this is the category most people dread the most. Why are these left for last?
They're left for last precisely because they are the hardest to discard. They carry the most emotional weight. The reassurance offered here, though, is that truly precious memories will never vanish, even if you discard the objects. The memories exist within you, not solely in the physical item.
And a crucial point. Many of us, when we're leaving home or decluttering our own place, we just send boxes of old childhood items or mementos back to our parents' house. What's the problem with doing that, according to this method?
Right. The source states quite clearly, your parents' home is not a haven for mementos. Sending things back home really only transfers the clutter burden. But more importantly, it prevents you from actually processing your own past. It just postpones the necessary emotional work involved in sorting through those memories.
Ah, okay. So discarding sentimental items is less about the item itself and more about personal growth. Moving on.
Exactly. Discarding sentimental items in this view becomes about processing your past and making space, literally and figuratively, to live in the here and now. It's an act of confronting your history in order to move forward, to truly inhabit your present life without being weighed down.
And for photos specifically, you're instructed to take them all out of albums, look at them one by one, which sounds daunting. But what's the key insight about their real purpose?
The key insight offered is that the meaning of a photo lies in the excitement and joy you feel when taking it. Once that initial feeling is gone, or the memory has been truly absorbed and integrated into your life story, the photo's physical purpose might be fulfilled. You don't necessarily need the physical print for the memory to continue existing within you.
Okay, so once all that incredibly hard work of discarding is finally complete, the focus shifts to storage. What's the fundamental principle here? Does it get easier now?
Well, the fundamental principle is reiterated again. Discard first, store later. And the promise, or the argument, is that once you've truly discarded everything that doesn't spark joy, the amount of storage space you naturally have is actually just right. You probably won't need to buy extra storage solutions. You should have enough space for what genuinely matters.
And the ultimate simplicity of storage means what, practically speaking? How do we achieve that?
It means one simple but powerful thing. Designate a place for each thing. Every single item you decide to keep needs a specific, designated home. The source warns that the existence of an item without a home multiplies the chances that your space will become cluttered again. Things without homes tend to wander and create mess. And this also means don't scatter storage spaces. Try not to keep the same category of item in multiple locations. Instead, concentrate belongings in one spot per person or per category as much as possible. There's even a surprising anecdote in the book about a 3-year-old client who apparently started tidying up independently once she was given her own clearly defined, dedicated space for her things. It's about clear boundaries and ownership, even for kids.
And it challenges some conventional organizing advice, like focusing on flow planning or organizing by frequency of use. What's the KonMari take on where the focus should be for storage?
Right. Storage, according to Kondo, should primarily reduce the effort needed to put things away, not the effort needed to get them out. Her reasoning is that we usually have a clear purpose and motivation when we take things out, so that effort isn't the main problem. The real challenge, the point where clutter creeps back in, is making it effortless to return things to their proper place afterwards.
Focus on putting away, not taking out. Makes sense. And a strong rule for storage, which we touched on with clothes, is never pile things. Vertical storage is the key. Why is this so important for everything, not just clothes?
Because stacking items, piling them up, creates this illusion of endless space. It makes it much harder to see what you actually have and how much you own. Things get lost. Plus, stacking is often very hard on the things at the bottom. They get squished, damaged, forgotten. Vertical storage, whether it's for clothes, books, papers, even some food items, makes the volume visible and keeps everything easily accessible and respected.
And you also don't necessarily need to rush out and buy lots of fancy commercial storage items. What does Kondo suggest instead?
Yeah, the tip is often to use simple, effective solutions you might already have. Shoeboxes are highlighted as being particularly versatile and effective for drawer organization, but really, any sturdy box or container you already have can often work perfectly well. It's often the most practical and cost-effective approach, plus you're reusing existing resources.
Okay. And for bags, handbags, backpacks, etc., what's the best storage method recommended?
The advice is that the best way to store bags is in another bag. Basically nesting them inside each other, maybe putting smaller clutches inside larger totes to save space and keep them contained. And crucially, she recommends, empty your bag every day. This is important for giving your bags a rest and practically for keeping track of contents, preventing receipts, wrappers, and forgotten items from accumulating inside.
Good habit. There are practical tips for specific areas too, avoiding common pitfalls. What are some of those?
Yeah, things like putting items that tend to usurp floor space, like suitcases, maybe musical instruments away into a closet rather than leaving them out. And also keeping things out of particularly humid areas, like right around the bath and the kitchen sink, to prevent grime, slime, and grease accumulation on containers or products stored there. It's about respecting both the item and the cleanliness of the space.
This next one is quite unique, almost spiritual. Making the top shelf of the bookcase your personal shrine for effective charms or special items. What's the idea behind that practice?
It's about consciously elevating certain items that hold special meaning or positive energy for you, placing them in a dedicated, respected spot. The idea is this helps transform your home into a kind of sacred space, maybe even a personal power spot, filled with pure energy and intention. It's a way of infusing your living environment with positive meaning.
And you're even encouraged to personalize your storage in hidden ways. How so?
Yes. Decorate your closet with your secret delights. The idea is, since it's a private space, you can put up posters, photos, postcards, anything that brings you personal joy inside your closet. Make it your own private paradise. It's about creating these hidden pockets of personal happiness that only you know about.
I like that. Another important habit she recommends is unpack and detag new clothes immediately. What's the benefit there? Why not just leave the tags on until you wear them?
The thinking is that this ritual helps the new clothes transition from being just store products to becoming your actual personal possessions. Removing the tags and putting them away properly makes them feel truly yours, integrated into your wardrobe, and apparently makes them more likely to be worn and not just forgotten with the tag still on. It's like cutting the umbilical cord to the shop.
Okay, makes sense. And finally, don't underestimate the noise of written information in storage spaces. Things like brand labels on containers or product seals. Why is removing those potentially helpful?
She argues that removing this visual clutter, all these unnecessary words and logos, contributes to a more peaceful environment. Your brain isn't constantly processing this extra, often meaningless visual information. It's about reducing sensory clutter as well as physical clutter to create a more serene and calming space overall.
So moving beyond just the physical space, Kondo talks about a much broader magic effect of tidying. How does she claim this process actually transforms your life in bigger ways?
Well, she says it helps you put your house in order and discover what you really want to do. The clarity gained from tidying often leads to significant life changes, apparently. She gives examples, like one client who tidied and then promptly quit her job to start a childcare company she'd dreamed about, or others who find they have more energy and focus for existing passions once their home environment is sorted. The clear space fosters a clear mind for future plans.
And as you practice this method, making all these decisions, you're also gaining confidence in life through the magic of tidying. How exactly does that happen?
It seems the constant act of making decisions. Does this spark joy? Yes or no? Repeatedly hones your overall decision-making skills. When you successfully choose what to keep and what to let go of over and over again, you build confidence in your judgment. And this confidence tends to spill over, making you more decisive not just about your belongings, but in other areas of your life too.
The source also discusses the two core reasons we tend to hold on to things we don't necessarily need. What are they, and how does tidying address them?
Right. The two core reasons identified are either an attachment to the past or anxiety about the future. We hold on because of nostalgia or out of fear we might need it someday. Tidying, by forcing you to confront each item and assess its present value, does it spark joy now, helps you address these patterns directly. You learn to appreciate the past without being bound by it, and you often learn that you can do without so many things, which reduces anxiety about future scarcity. You realize you need far less than you thought.
There are even mentions of observed detox effects, suggesting that your living space affects your body. What kind of physical effects has she apparently seen in clients?
Yeah, it's interesting. Clients have reported things like unexpected weight loss or clearer skin after tidying. The theories mentioned connect this to maybe getting more fresh air circulating, perhaps increased incidental cleaning as you maintain the space, and maybe even a reduced tendency towards impulse buying or stress eating because you feel more content and less stressed by your environment.
And then there's this truly beautiful, almost spiritual element woven throughout. The idea to appreciate your possessions and gain strong allies by thanking them for their service before letting them go, or even just appreciating the things you keep. Can you give an example of what she means by this?
Yeah, it's quite profound. She shares an anecdote, for instance, about an old phone that seemed to finally die right after she properly thanked it for its service. The idea is that possessions become more vibrant, more supportive like allies when they're given a proper home, acknowledged